Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic mashup of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Professor Chris G, and on the other line with me is the man that we're not saying goodbye to tonight. It's good old Dougie first. Dougie, my man, how are you doing?
So I'm not leaving?
No, I got you.
Okay.
Your contract's not up. You got like 3 more years on this deal. I signed you like Tony Khan.
Aha. That's not true. That's not true, because if that was the case, I would only do like one podcast a month.
No, it's not in your contract. You got to read the fine print, bro. Read the fine print.
I got one of those where I actually got to work. I've been looking for that Mercedes Monet contract.
I know.
Talking about coming in, boy. When I'm ready to go, boy.
I'm gonna give you guys a good show, but I'm gonna get paid for 4 months.
For real, bro.
And just walk out and hold a microphone for a few. But I guess you know what, it did take CM Punk a little bit of time in AEW to have his first match too. So.
Did it though? Think about it.
Well, yeah, when he came back, he didn't have his first match until what was it? The right before All Out, because he hit the GTS. He hit the GTS right before All Out.
No, but he came out whenever. Okay, yeah, maybe it was about.
Yeah, it was right before All Out.
In my head, I had that Rampage episode at the end of August, and then All Out was, but it was the middle of August, wasn't it? So that was at least a couple weeks.
Yeah, so he didn't have his first match. He finally did the GTS for the first time in front of the Chicago crowd on the Go Home Rampage episode.
Remember when Rampage thing?
I know, and they had a whole steel cage and everything on that show.
They did.
Yeah.
They did have a steel. That was a whole big thing, and then.
So yeah, it took him about a month and a half to have a match, but it's not as long as Mercedes Monet. not at all. Well,
no, because it's completely different circumstances, because like Punk wasn't on every week.
Yes, he was.
You knew he was
He had a microphone every single week once he debuted.
Yeah, but his shit didn't feel forced. It feels like Mercedes is out there just because they're ticking boxes off of her deal until she can actually wrestle at frickin' Memorial Day.
You're not wrong. But everybody, this is another mashup. It's the final Orange Islands mashup that we are doing. And you're probably like, well, when are you guys going to continue after this? So we're going to explain how things are going to go going forward. So Doug and myself have sat down and we've had numerous conversations because we had no idea how we were going to do this. Right, Doug?
Right.
I feel like Doug is like, he's like, okay, I'm going to listen to this too. I'm not 100%, but I'm going to listen. Okay. So what we have decided was we are going to start Pokemon Horizons starting next week for everyone. And we are going to continue these mashups. Now, we might do 2 episodes. We might do 3 episodes, depending on what severity that we're going over with Horizons. Now, once a month, you're still going to get your fix because we are moving over into Johto. And we will be giving you a Pokemon mashup of about 3 episodes for Pokemon the Johto journeys. And then like when we have big freaking news, at least once a month, we're still going to do the Poke Breaks or as news comes in. If the news is not that big, you're not going to get a whole Poke Break episode. We're going to continue and just roll through a lot of these episodes. But as major news comes out or on big Pokemon breaking news days, you're going to get your Poke Breaks, or when we have our special guest on the show, and if they don't want to do a mashup, we'll just have a Pokemon discussion about recent events. Right, Doug?
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's kind of how our schedule is going to go. You'll get about 3 or 4 Horizon mashups, then you'll get a Johto, and then we'll be right back into the roll with some more Horizons until some news hits. And then yeah, that I mean there's more cooking, but we can't talk about that yet, but we do we do have other things cooking as well that hopefully sometime soon we'll be able to announce. So
Right, right. Yeah, we've got some irons in the fire. We've got some stuff working in the background, and we're just
absolutely,
not
and I can't wait to
100%.
announce it
Yeah, I
because
mean it's exciting.
it is. So, but yeah, we'll be talking about that obviously a little bit more in the future. Hopefully, that'll be one of our summer announcements that we'll bring to the forefront. Don't expect that announcement anytime soon. Don't message me. I'm not going to message back in regards to what the announcement is. But yeah, there's some stuff brewing. We we're going to be doing the Pokemon Forever movie this upcoming summer. We have a lot in store for you guys for these next few months. So we got our summer movie coming up. We got an announcement that's coming up, and and we're gonna be rolling through these Pokemon Horizon episodes, and it's a great time to subscribe to us on Spotify, right, Doug?
Yeah, I didn't know which way you were going. I could tell you were leading up to a plug, but I didn't know where you were going. But yeah,
Yeah. So, all right, everybody. It's a great time to be a fan of the podcast. We see you, audience out there. We're glad that you stick with us every single week. Go ahead and click that subscribe button on Spotify. They are what helps us keep the lights on here on this show. And if you're feeling a little bit more generous and you are annoyed by ads in our show, go ahead and subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/every Pokemon. And you get our shows ad free, and you get to listen to our shows in advance. And one of the biggest perks is you get a better shot at getting these Pokemon trading card game codes, everybody. So if
hmm
you want these codes and you want a first shot at it, if you think you're getting gypped by the people on Patreon, because quite honestly, I don't know who's taking the damn codes. So so if you think that people are snagging them on Patreon and you would like these codes, or if you're taking a chance in the dark on trying to get these codes on the free feed, you can keep doing so, but you do have a better shot on Patreon, and you can go ahead and subscribe. But like we said, it is a great time to be a fan of our show, and we are starting to get a little bit more relevant with our show too, with these Horizon episodes, and I am so excited to start that next week, bro.
yes.
So, all right, but I feel like I'm talking a lot right before I get into the plugs of this episode. How the are you doing, bro?
I'm all right. Why you gotta be so aggressive?
Because I'm excited, bro. It's an exciting time right now on our podcast.
Sounds like you got into Tony Khan's special powder or something.
Oh my good shit. No.
Ha!
um,
Ha!
but but no, for real. How are you doing over there, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to put a nice, neat little bow here on these
Well,
Orange Islands episodes. The weather's getting decent,
yes, it is.
hopefully.
Yep.
Um, gonna see y'all this weekend,
Oh
which
yeah. We're throwing a nice little birthday party this weekend. That'll be real fun, and yeah, it's gonna be a great time. We're gonna have some family over. Gonna have you over. Well, I don't know why I separated you two because you're family, Doug.
Yeah, what the fuck?
But
Sitting here minding
yeah,
my own business, catching strays all this way.
yeah, we got a nice little bounce house for my little one. So she's excited for that. It's gonna be a nice time this weekend. I know this is coming out after the fact, but yeah, it's gonna be a nice weekend that we're getting ready to have. All right, so are you ready?
Yes.
All right, bro. So we are going over 4 episodes today, 2 of which were filler as. And I'm gonna try to censor that one right there. That was a strong F on
Yeah,
that
I was
one.
gonna say I felt that here. I've gonna have to go out and apologize to my neighbor. Shit.
I know, but yeah, it was really filler. So today we are going over Viva Las Lapras, which premiered in Japan September 16th and here in the States September 30th. Then after that we're going to the Underground Roundup. Ugh. Eh. Sorry everybody. Before we even get into
That's
that one, I hated that episode. But
that was another. I don't know what. I don't even know what that was. I mean, I know what it was about, like in the literal sense, but I have no reason why that had to take up 20 minutes of my time.
for real, which is why these mashups are so much better. But that premiered September 23rd, in 1999 in Japan, and here in the States September 30th, 2000. So, and then we have a tent situation, and that premiered in Japan September 30th, 1999, and here in the States October 7th of 2000. And the Rivalry Revival premiered October 7th, 1999, and here in the States October 14th. Wow, we had to wait a week for the last episode? Oh, okay.
That, that kind of seems like a slap in the face because I was essentially treating a tense situation and a rivalry revival as one long episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like those were the better episodes. I mean, hey, you know what? At least they gave us Viva Las Lapras and the Underground Roundup on the same day out here.
This is very true. This is, I mean, that doesn't excuse the fact, but they get a few points back.
Yeah. So, all right, everyone. So, let's go ahead and go over this Viva Las Lapras episode. We're not going to go word for word. We're going to just kind of have a conversation here on this mashup. But this is the episode where Ash essentially gives back Lapras to the Lapras gang, its party that it was a part of that basically outed Lapras from the group, which I felt
Yes.
really bad about.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, and then, we found out the episode when Ash, rescued slash caught Lapras that it was a baby. So, I mean, that's even more of a kick in the teeth.
I know. So, I mean, the fact that Lapras knew exactly where these islands were, I mean, is like surprising to me. I'm just throwing that out there. Like Lapras always knew the island and what direction to be swimming. So, I mean, I guess they do say Laprases are very smart, right?
Well, yeah, they did make a note to say that Laprases are highly intelligent,
So,
which good thing for Ash because there are some episodes where I felt like he couldn't find his ass with both hands.
for real. We'll get into that when we get into Brock a little bit later on. Brock was funny in that later episode, but we'll get into him in just a bit.
Poor Brock.
I know. I have some assumptions that I'm going to have some fun in this episode. Forewarning, everybody, this is a mature show. Um, But yes, we basically started off the episode with Lapras taking a hard left, and circling back while traveling the Kanto region is basically where
Yeah.
they're going to. So Ash won the championship, as you heard in the previous episode, and Lapras sees its whole gang of Laprases just swimming in the ocean. And Lapras is like, oh my gosh, it's all these Laprases.
Guys, look! It's a whole school of Lapras!
This is amazing! I've never seen so many Lapras together.
I wonder if any of these Lapras know you're Lapras, Ash. Maybe.
Hey, you know, this could be the school Lapras was separated from before we found it.
Well, looks like these might be friends of yours.
And he or she, I'm not sure. I think it's a she. I think Lapras
I think
tries.
it's a she.
I think Lapras tries going over to be with all these Laprases, but as soon as Lapras starts going over there to head towards the Laprases, they take off and they're like, yeah, you're not coming back over here with us. And Lapras is kind of sad. It starts to cry, and then the Laprases use one of their mist. What was this the part where they used? Yeah, they used like a mist,
Yeah.
and they uh, they make it to where Lapras cannot see where they're going, and just leaves him or leaves her. So I felt really really bad for that moment, bro.
Yeah, I mean, they just kind of shunned Lapras because it's like, oh, you're still you're still a runt, and then B, you've been caught, so um
Now you're even more yucky.
now you're domesticated. I was like, there's a word, and I'm not. My mind kept going back to domesticized, and I'm like, that's not a word. Domesticated.
Yeah. Lapras got shunned away, and correct me if I'm wrong, we never found out why Lapras was shunned from its party, did we?
No, the best we could get is the Nurse Joy on that particular island was speculating that because Ash's Lapras was undersized, it got left behind, or like you said, it got directly shunned
Yeah.
because, survival of the fittest and all that.
So, with that being said, later on in the episode, we run into some Pokemon pirates, and they're literally trying to pretend to be actual pirates. But these Pokemon pirates have been poaching Pokemon, and they're on the big wanted list, which I don't understand why Officer Jenny couldn't get them, because they're in a very big, obvious pirate ship boat. Like, very obvious. Like, why they're letting these people just run havoc on their land is just beyond me. But you run it we run into these Pokemon pirates who are trying to get these Laprases, and yeah, they fail. They have a battle with Ash. They try to kidnap our heroes during this episode, and then at the end of the day, they end up getting caught. They get caught with Team Rocket as well, and Team Rocket ends up getting out of it, but freaking the pirates are caught and they are going to jail. And
Yeah.
and Ash ends up meeting back up with the Lapras because the Lapras ended up helping the other Laprases that abandoned it. And these other Laprases are like, oh, maybe you're not so bad. Maybe you can come back with us. You have proven yourself worthy of coming back with us. It would have been at that point that I would have been like, no, I'm going back with Ash. with someone who actually
Yeah, I'm
likes
going back with it. He might be a bit simple, but at least he actually cares about me. I'm not just another number to make up your school or whatever.
Yeah, but this Lapras literally it helped out the other Laprases, and at that point in time in the episode, they're like, "Oh yeah, come on back." And Lapras, being Lapras, was like, "Oh, should I go back, Ash?" And Ash is like, you need to go with your party. That those are the people that love you. They're just like you, and I'm gonna go and continue my journey to become the greatest Pokemon trainer of all time. And it's literally at that point, Doug, that Lapras goes away. He relinquishes the Pokeball that Lapras was in, and Lapras sails away.
I mean, I never understood, and I mean, I'm sure we've had this discussion about Ash and giving away his Pokemon, whether it was Butterfree or freaking
Butterfree wanted to go and make other Caterpies, is what happened.
which, you got a chance to get it in, but I mean, and that's a flaw in the Pokemon like nature system about like, oh, I can't really be risking capturing this Butterfree because it's eventually going to have to go and continue the life cycle or whatever.
Yeah. So I
So
don't
that's
know.
I don't know. I feel like if the if the original series, right,
Yes.
was made today in 2024 and the internet was then what it is today. Ash comes across a Butterfree. I think the immediate because like okay, he pulls out Dexter and Dexter gives, two sentences about the Pokemon or whatever. He'd be able to pull up like a Wikipedia, like a Pokepedia or something, and be like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to be messing with this Butterfree or with this Caterpie because he goes into Metapod and then Metapod goes into Butterfree and then Butterfree has to create the cycle all over again, and it's the responsible thing for me as a trainer to relinquish my Butterfree and let him go back and do that. And I don't know if I want to sacrifice a Pokemon, especially this early on in my journey,
Exactly, bro. So I
because
don't know.
he didn't even have Butterfree for that long if you think about it.
No, it was what, a couple episodes?
Yeah,
So yeah, he didn't. He didn't have Butterfree that long. At least Charizard had enough sense. I think Charizard was more for the fans because you
yeah.
put Charizard on the TV, that equals ratings. But does Lapras equal ratings?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not. That's not to slam Lapras or anything, but
so so yeah, it's uh, so yeah. I mean, Ash does get reunited with Lapras just a few more times. Lapras has babies and has its own party a little bit later on that we find out in Journeys. Lapras is a mother, has a couple baby Laprases and all that good jazz. And yeah, it. I mean, they at least come back to Lapras a few times. So
yeah,
that I will give them. But yeah, when it comes down to this episode, I mean that was the gist of this episode. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I miss anything, Doug, in this episode? That anything you want to point out from this?
only because it's relevant to the next episode, and I kind of get a little bit itchy if we don't do it
Okay.
at this point. The Who's That Pokemon was Electrode.
Yes. Who plays a part in next week's episode? Yeah.
Yes. So, but other than that, um, you know, the Pirates were ineffective. Team Rocket was just as ineffective. Um, and spoiler alert, Team Rocket sucks next episode as well.
And speaking of next episode, bro, um, so I feel like I took I took a selfish lead in with the Lapras. Do you want to kind of brief everybody on the next episode with the underground roundup before we get into the crux of our episode with the last two?
Yes. I was paying attention to how you were going over Viva Las Lapras, and I was like, he might have stumbled onto something with these filler episodes. Just talking, just general discussion, like broad strokes. So the main meat of the underground roundup is the bridge to access the ferry that would take our heroes back to Pallet Town collapses.
Hey, what's this? Due to extremely dangerous conditions, persons are forbidden to cross this bridge?
I wonder what's so dangerous.
If we don't get to that little island, we'll never get to the Pallet Town ferry. It looks safe to me.
Maybe we should just take a chance and cross it anyway.
Maybe not.
They were able to get like passage. I mean, otherwise they would have been stuck.
Yeah.
And it's a ghost town, which we literally just had like a nothing going on town, what, a couple episodes ago. And they're like, oh, boy, there's nobody, and there's literally like the streets are empty, the stereotypical trash blowing in the streets, that kind of stuff. And they're like, what the world is going on here?
Everybody left.
And everybody, like,
It was
I'm
a
not
state of
being
emergency.
facetious. Like, it's not like, oh, well, yeah, I suppose you're right. And I mean, obviously, we get into that a little bit, but we have one of my favorite moments where Misty puts down Togepi and then loses Togepi, but that becomes everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
Not Misty's fault for putting Togepi down in the first place.
No, how
She
da-
treats the other two as
how
babysitters.
how dare you blame Misty for just putting Togepi down for a second, right, Doug?
Yeah. It's not like Togepi could legitimately have a Pokeball or anything.
For real.
I mean, it is a Pokemon. We're getting more and more into Togepi learning its powers.
Oh, do we?
Uh, so Togepi sees Voltorb, and it's a cute little Voltorb. And Togepi, being a baby, follows the Voltorb, and they're doing like a circus act. Togepi's bouncing on Voltorb, or Voltorb, and Voltorb's rolling. But this one's friendly, so it doesn't immediately blow up. But then they're confronted with a whole horde of other Voltorbs and and Electrodes, and then our heroes get surrounded, and they're about to. They just start blowing up.
Boom, boom,
I mean,
boom, boom, boom.
I mean, it's a chain reaction, and they're running. It's straight out of like an '80s action movie. They're just running, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And it's literally overrun with Voltorbs and Electrodes, and they're like, "Well, it's freaking 5 minutes into the episode, we're already fucked." And they literally sit up and get down. Yeah. They they sit down and give up, and
They're like, well, this
then they
is it.
pan up to the rooftop, and we've got like a Batman figure, and it turns out to be this guy. It's essentially freaking Clint Eastwood, and he's got a bunch of Diglets. Well, Diglets, I guess is
Yeah,
that's. I don't
Diglets.
need to be funny about that one. And the hitch on the Diglets is they dig under the electrodes and then take them
To an island.
underground to like a sanctuary basically.
Yep.
And um pardon me, we go a little further because I'm trying to use the Professor Chris G method, especially for these fillers, because I really liked it. We go a little further and we find out that a mad scientist was like trying to harness the power of the electrodes, or not the Voltorbs.
Yep, the Votorbs and the electrodes, and basically trying to be greedy by getting unlimited power and not wanting to pay for it. And
Right, and all those Voltorbs in one, or yeah, I keep getting. I'm gonna be so happy when we're done with this episode because I always get them confused for some reason. All the Voltorbs in one area, they started to evolve into electrodes, and then there was more and more electrodes, and it got to a point where there was literally no room for human beings on the island. We get the Who's That Pokemon, and it's Kingler, which again we give it a pass because Kingler is featured in the next episode. Um, we find out the Team Rocket has followed our heroes to the island, and they're causing a ruckus by sucking up all these Voltorbs and making them explode, and just generally causing havoc as opposed to the underground tunnel method.
yeah,
Um, and we find out that this is like Team Rocket is legitimately getting work. Like they have like a contract from the mayor and everything. So this poor Clint Eastwood fellow, um, his hands are literally tied because Team Rocket actually, for once, has paperwork. Um, and the Voltorb that became fast friends with Togepi ends up stepping up and playing like the episode's hero, and rallying the Electrodes and the Voltorbs that weren't intentionally exploded, and um, basically because it's your standard filler Pokemon episode, Team Rocket gets blasted off again. Um, we have another uh, blink and you miss it moment of Togepi trying to manipulate her powers. You know, Pikachu steps in with like what 6 minutes left in the episode,
just
and
about.
then
Maybe less than
we
that.
have we have the standard. Oh, didn't you think capturing all the Voltorbs and Electrodes? Didn't you think we would shockproof this machine to deal with all the electricity? So they're like, "Oh, Pikachu's a useless rat," and then uh, the the Clint Eastwood fellow literally has had a Doug trio under his hat the whole time,
Which is pretty weird.
and which is another instance of okay, how do Diglets come together to get three? It's like you can throw them in the same boat as Magnemite and Voltorbs and Electrodes and all that. Um, Team Rocket's machine literally falls down a hole that's dug by the Doug trio. Um, and again, we find out that this guy's got like 17 Diglets that he's just throwing out.
What's that?
It feels like we're headed for...
A foe!
Trio. That was great! Duck Trio saved the island from Team Rocket.
That's right, but we still got some work to do. Go Diglett! Let's finish the job. Diglett, dig round the electrode and move him on out of here.
Dude, this dude had so many Diglets. Like, he must have found a whole bunch of them. Do you guys want to help me? And they're like, dig a dig, dig a dig. And then just fucking, he's like, all right, I'm going to throw all these Pokeballs. Just find your way into, just bam, 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 bam. Like, he had so many Diglets.
And, Team Rocket gets caught up in the herd of Electrodes, and they get freaking, they get, rounded up, and the Voltorbs come pouring out of the mountain, and they're bouncing, and they're all happy and content, and the Voltorb that Togepi was close with gets upset and doesn't want Voltorb to go. Starts to cry, and that made me cry, which is dumb because it's a cartoon from 30 years ago. And
yeah, Togepi was so upset, and Misty's trying to explain, well, Voltorb has to go, and Togepi's like, no, he's my friend. And I was like, oh.
And that's another one where, okay, Misty wasn't going to catch it because it's not a water Pokemon, but goddamn, Ash had to have a Pokeball lying around. Tracy had to have a Pokeball lying around.
They could have caught that damn Voltorb.
And you can't tell me that Voltorb had to be free for the sake of the environment.
No, there's trainers that have Voltorbs.
For goodness sakes. The people come back to the island, and Ash offers this Clint Eastwood fella, to come along to Pallet and meet everyone, and he's like, oh, I gotta mosey on, down the road, because you never know when a town's gonna need me and all this stuff. And
yeah, they offer this man to travel with them. I just had to chuckle at that line when they offered it to him. They're like, hey, would you like to travel with us? And he's like, nah. I'm a little old for you guys.
Which I suppose he is.
He is.
Because if we've established that Misty's what? Misty's 10, Ash is 10. Tracy, do we ever find out how old Tracy is? Tracy can't be much older than everybody.
Tracy's using Ash to get to Professor Oak.
And boy, do we find that out.
But yeah, that's the gist on that episode. I think that's about it. I mean, are we missing anything from that episode, bro?
Oh, I don't think so. Like you said, these first two were and the last episode is basically the last two episodes is basically one episode that gets cut off at a weird point.
Yeah, for real. So, all right, everyone. So, We are on our way over to episode 115, titled A Tent Situation. So Ash finally makes it back to Pallet Town, and he sees he goes back home, and obviously he's surprised that Brock is inside of his house.
I just can't wait to see the look on my mom's face. Surprise!
Is that you, Ash?
Huh? Viva? He's back!
Who's he?
He's Brock!
Hey, how you doing there, Misty? Hiya, Togepi. Looking good.
What do you mean, how you doing? What are you doing here?
Hey, you must be Tracy.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, how about a nice cup of tea? I just made a fresh pot of indigo oolong, which has a delightful peachy flavor. It has a floral fragrance, and I think you'll find it very refreshing. I like my tea straight, but for you, I'll add a dash of milk and 2 heaping teaspoons of sugar. Now watch out, it's hot. Here you go.
Like, wouldn't you be kind of creeped out?
Especially when he's the first person I see. Like, I don't even see my mom before I see him.
I know.
Like, what did you do with my mother, you old man? Well, he's not old, but he's older than they are.
But the funny part is, and Ash and Misty, they're like, oh, well, hi, Brock. And Brock is like, yeah, I decided that I wanted to come back. My brothers are over at the Pokemon gym, so they're holding that down. So I came here to kind of wait for you. And Ash and Misty are like, well, what happened to Professor Ivy? And that's where the comedy happens.
It seemed like you were gonna stay there forever.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna learn more about Pokemon.
And help take care of those kids.
How come you didn't stay with Professor Ivy?
Oh, that name.
Hey, Brock, what's wrong?
I don't want to talk about it.
Did Professor Ivy do... I just said... What happened?
I don't want to talk about it.
She must have dumped him.
Huh?
This always happens.
You okay, Brock?
No.
So remember, everybody, this is a mature show, but because I have my assumptions. But Brock, every time he hears Professor Ivy's name, he curls up into a ball, and he doesn't want to talk about Professor Ivy. Bro, let's start going down the rabbit hole. Why doesn't Brock want to talk about Professor Ivy?
Because Brock thought he was getting into a completely different situation than he got into. Because the last time we saw Brock, right, he was like, oh, they need a manly presence around these labs, her and her. Those were her 3 daughters, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, her and her 3 daughters, they need a manly presence around the lab. And he's like, well, and also Professor Ivy, she's easy on the eyes, I can get in while the getting's good. And me and her can have a thing here. I think Brock got friend zoned, is what I think happened.
But he always gets friend zoned.
No, but this is serious though, because he gave up traveling with Ash and Misty because he saw an opportunity, and then when she friend zoned him, either because he was creepy or he's like 15 and she's like 35, and she's already got 3 kids or whatever, and she's not trying to
have any more.
Have any more, especially with somebody who probably barely needs to shave. And she's like, you're sweet and all, and your help around the lab is greatly appreciated, but I don't I don't think you're going to get out of this what you want to get out of it. And she shot him down, and he's like, oh, those poor unused boners.
Now, this is what I think. I think that Professor Ivy was a man, and Brock was like, oh no, oh no. And he ran. And he ran. And he ran. And he ran. And now, anytime he hears that name, that's the first thing he thinks of. And it makes him shudder.
You okay, Brock?
No.
The views of Professor Chris G are not necessarily the views of the entirety of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcasting company. And, yeah.
So I think there's that, or yeah, I think Brock saw something that just made him, because Brock likes any woman. It doesn't matter what woman it is. He even made a song about her, or not
He
her,
did.
but about like Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, and that there's one of him, and he there's enough of Brock to go around, and yeah. But I don't know. I think he saw some stuff.
So you think, and I know enough of me is telling me to not engage on this topic, but enough of me is just curious enough and thinks we maybe shorted the underground roundup just enough that we might have to extend this episode. So I'm going to indulge here,
Okay.
in spite of my better judgment. So we know Brock, right?
Oh yeah.
Brock is horny,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Super horny at some times.
Yes.
Right. So you think there's a world where...
I think he starts questioning his manhood.
Oh, so you think he might have been okay with it, but just enough of him wasn't that he had to stop, and in your mind he ran.
Yes. And,
Oh.
and he ran. And he ran.
So it's not that he discriminates, it's that he wasn't sure himself if he was willing to commit to a situation like that.
Correct.
Ah.
But all right. To continue the plot of this episode, so yes, Brock is back. He cowers every time that he hears Professor Ivy's voice, or not voice, but her name. And
It was getting to the point where he couldn't hear the word professor.
yeah. And then because they said, and then Misty had to be like, I was talking about Professor Oak. Oh, okay. But so he's been living with Mrs. Ketchum for at least I would say about a month. Is kind of the timeline that I got. And so he's been living there, and Ash finds out, and he's like, oh, so you're back. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I figured I would wait here. Mrs. Ketchum is like, yeah, I thought it was weird when he first came here. I would ask him periodically about Professor Ivy, but he would always cowered, so I just stopped asking him. And I was like, oh, what a good mother. And she's like, and he was very helpful around the house, except for when he wanted to do Mr. Mime's chores. Then him and Mr. Mime would be butting heads quite a bit on who's gonna do the chore. And yeah, but other than that, he's been a great addition to the family. So, but we come to find out that Ash forgets that he needs to go and see Professor Oak because Professor Oak was waiting on him to get the GS ball. So
Right.
they go and they bring it on back over to Professor Oak at this time, because we also hear that Gary is in town. And Ash is like, "Oh, Gary. Gary's in town? Oh man, I need to go see Gary." And they hop on over to Professor Oak's lab. I'm gonna, because I don't want to go out of order here. And um, let's see. Oh, I did pass over one part. So when Mrs. Ketchum was telling the story of how Brock came to be, Brock was basically living homeless, and Mrs. Ketchum was out doing some grocery shopping with Mr. Mime, and they were stomping all over Brock in the grass.
Maybe he liked it.
but but Tracy also, while at the house, was like, he started getting anxious, and he's like, when are we gonna meet Professor Oak? Come on, when are we gonna meet Professor Oak? Will somebody hear me? And they're all like, huh? I want to meet Professor Oak. Like, oh, okay. And and Ash goes back to give the Pokeballs over to Professor Oak. And I'm going to have you start this part, bro. So they walk into Professor Oak's home, which looks like a very elaborate home. Like, normally we're only seeing the office and everything, but they walk into this home, and it's a really big home.
Yeah, like deceptively big from the outside, and they're looking around and they can't find him, and they they turn a corner and frickin' Muck barrels out and knocks Ash down, and we find out that Professor Oak was in there, and he's like, "Oh, hi, Professor Oak. Oh, hi, Ash," and then you know Muck is like, "Oh, Ash came back," and he tackles him, and it's like, can we get Muck off of me? I've been trying to, get rid of him for half an hour, and because Muck is an affectionate fellow, and Tracy's trying to make introductions while they're trying to pry Muck loose, and Oak looks down and he says, "Oh, hi, Pikachu and Togepi," and they're happy as clams, and um. Professor Oak makes the cardinal sin of asking Brock how Professor Ivy was. So poor
that
Brock goes catatonic,
that name.
and Muck's trying to comfort him, but it's just Brock is in his own world, and he's like, "Oh, here's the GS ball, Professor Oak," and Professor Oak's like, "Oh, hot damn! I'll have to look at this and see what kind of wonders are inside," and he puts it on the storage shelf, which doesn't seem safe. And lo and behold, we'll find out about that here in a couple minutes. And they go walking past a big window, and they see Snorlax is just chowing down on apples out of the tree, and he gets his fill and collapses down asleep, and say, "Oh, Snorlax is taken very good care of here." And we see Ash's herd of Tauros,
Yep.
and
We also see Kingler.
we see Kingler is looking happy and healthy, and Ash returns his Tauros that he used in the Orange League to the herd, and um, Kingler's happy as Larry in the pond, and we see Tracy's making some sketches, and Professor Oak's kind of looking over his shoulder. He's like, "Those are very good drawings." And Tracy just about shits himself. Um,
Yeah, because every time that Professor Oak is going through some of these drawings, he gets more and more nervous, and he's like, "Oh my God, Professor Oak, he's looking at my drawings. This is so great. Oh my gosh!" And like he starts shaking the couch so much that the tea that Misty and Ash are drinking are almost falling out of their little cups.
Yeah, poor Ash is like, take it easy. He's like, and freaking Brock, for no reason, Brock is like, "What do you think, Professor?" Like, he gets all close to him and shit.
It's a good thing I'm not nervous.
Hey, Tracy, take it easy!
Yeah, your sketches are fine. Now just stop worrying and relax, will ya?
What do you think of him so far, Professor? Well, I haven't reviewed his whole portfolio yet, but from what I've seen so far, I think that...
This is when we get the
Who's that Pokemon? And it's Amistar.
It's Amistar, and I can't give him points because why is it Amistar?
I have no idea.
Gary doesn't have an Amistar that we find out about.
A big old tent goes around Professor Oak's home. Team Rocket is in there, and they're dressed as circus people. And they're in there to go and steal all of the Pokemon inside of Professor Oak's lab. And the funniest part was Lickitung sees Muck, and Muck is like, "Hi," and Lickitung starts licking Muck, and Muck is like, "Oh, keep licking me," and Lickitung's like, "Why isn't my licking working?" And it's just trying to sit here and lick him up. And we see Jigglypuff is coming back. This episode is a Pokemon reunion. So Jigglypuff is trying to poke the net to get inside all the chaos. We see a masked man walk up behind, who we soon to find out is Gary. Team Rocket is in here, and they're just wrecking havoc, and they tie up everybody inside of Professor Oak's lab. They bring down a big old suction cup thing, and they start just taking everything inside, and the windows are breaking and everything. And even all the Pokeballs that are on the shelves are going bye-bye. And all the Pokeballs start flying into the suction cup. Team Rocket is happy about themselves because one of their plans is finally working. And out of nowhere, the tent gets ripped open. We have Nidoqueen come running up, and we see that it's Gary's Nidoqueen.
Go, Nidoqueen!
Gary?
Look at tongue!
Nidoqueen, grab that tongue! Nidoqueen, use your Mega Punch! You're making our big top a big flop!
Get in there!
I'll take care of this with my scratch attack! I guess I'm not as sharp as I used to be! Strike attack now!
We almost won that time.
We got close!
A near victory!
Team Rocket's blasting off again!
And it's at this point in the show that Gary is like, "Is everyone okay?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, we're fine." And he says hi to his grandpa, and Ash sees Gary, and he's like, "Hey, Gary," and he's like, "I won the Pokemon Orange Islands," and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "You might have won the Pokemon Orange Islands, but that sure didn't help you here with Team Rocket." And Ash is like, "Oh," and
he got me.
He's like, "Well, you know what? I have gotten better, and I'm gonna show you. Why don't we Pokemon battle?" And Gary is like, "You want to battle me?" And Ash is like, "Yeah." And it's at this point that we literally end the episode with a stare down between Ash and Gary.
Well, this is a surprise. On his first day back in Pallet, Ash finds himself on the verge of a Pokemon battle with his arch-enemy Gary, and it seems Gary is stronger than ever. Will Ash have the hometown advantage, or is he about to become the local loser?
And it's literally them looking eye to eye, and this was some Dragon Ball bullshit. I mean, this episode was so good, but they're teasing you that this next episode we're gonna have another battle with Ash and Gary, and it's gonna be one that you're not gonna want to miss. It was 5 minutes in the next episode. 5 minutes.
It was 5 minutes. It was like 2 moves. Spoiler.
For real.
You know, Ash loses.
All right, hold on, because I got to get the Pokemon roundup for this next one. But the next episode that we're getting ready to go over, everyone, is the Rivalry Revivals. Try saying that fast 10 times, everyone. But Doug, I'm gonna give you the open to this because we actually start the episode with a rewind as to what happened in part 1, and now we're about to get the battle between Ash and Gary.
So yeah, I guess if you factor that in, this episode's only like 19 minutes. Because like the first 2 minutes is a recap, which I was like, that's kind of shady, but whatever. So we find out that this battle between Gary and Ash is going to be 1v1, because it's not like we have a whole episode to fill.
I know, right?
For goodness sakes. I mean, I understand Ash just won the Orange League, but I hate to do it, but is he on that Tony Khan schedule, or he only anyway?
For real.
So Gary has an Eevee, and Ash uses Pikachu.
All right. I think we should get this match started. This is a one-on-one Pokemon battle. Pikachu versus Eevee with no time limit. Begin the battle now!
Pay attention and maybe you'll learn something! Like how to make the top 16 in the Pokemon League and win the Orange League!
I'm here to battle, not to talk. What about you?
I'm here to beat you, Gary! Pikachu! Quick attack!
Pikachu goes in with Quick Attack. Eevee uses Protect, blocks it, lands on its feet. Tracy's like, I don't even think Eevee felt any of that. And
because it didn't.
He might as well say, boy, Ash kind of sucks.
I have a quiz for you real quick.
I might have an answer.
Do you know which Eevee evolution that Gary ends up choosing with Eevee, with his Eevee?
Oh, fuck a duck. It's one of 3. Oh, fuck. I am going to take a shot in the dark. I'm going to say Vaporeon.
No.
Oh, damn it. Jolteon.
Nope.
He doesn't do any of the original 3, does he?
Nope, he does Umbreon.
That's what I was.
When you said dark, I was like, oh, I was like he's gonna get it. Yeah, he goes Umbreon for
that's right,
the Eevee evolution. I just happened to see it in one of the Johto episodes. Towards the end, we find out that his Eevee evolved into Umbreon.
Which means if you follow along with the games, that means old Gary was doing a lot of nighttime training.
Yep.
Which that was personally that was my move in the games. I just like Umbreon's look a little more.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
So Eevee's next move is Double Team, and Ash is stunned by this move, which is stupid because Double Team is such a basic move. Um, Pikachu's wasting all its energy
Trying to
taking out
find
the
the real one.
duplicates. Friggin' Eevee charges in with its quick attack. Pikachu is doing its best dodging.
But it got hit.
It got hit.
It got hit hard.
Because it is like a headbutt, and Pikachu had a thunderbolt stored up, and at the point of contact, Pikachu let it out, so Pikachu kind of played itself.
Yeah.
And couldn't answer the bell. And then Ash was like, well, you did great. You did not great. You lost to 2 moves.
Eevee! That was good work, Eevee. They're a tough team.
Well, Gary, it looks like all that training you've been doing has really paid off, and I must say I'm very impressed with your progress.
Thanks, but I've still got a lot of work ahead of me. You did a great job, Ash. Eevee, return! Goodbye, Grandpa.
Hey, Gary! Next time it's gonna be different!
The last bit we see of Gary is Ash going, I'm going to get you next time, and Gary basically flips him off.
If he could, he would have. But he's like, all right, I guess.
I'll see you down the road there, Squirt. And Ash is kind of sitting there on a rock, and he's like, what the fuck do I do? And
we find out Professor Oak can't do anything with this Pokeball.
Can't do nothing. He's completely stumped, and he's looking so dejected.
I really wish we would have found out what was inside of this Pokeball.
I'm saying, because I remember
never find out.
I remember when we started doing this show, and we got to the episode where he gets it, and because I knew you were ahead of me, and I asked you, I said, don't tell me, but we find out what's in it, and you said nope. And I said, what do you mean, nope?
The GS Ball is a Pokeball introduced in Generation 2 that was originally intended to contain Celebi. Celebi was saved for the movie Pokemon Forever, and the GS Ball was dropped from the anime, so it has not played any significance in the show going forward.
Son of a bitch.
So yeah, apparently we were supposed to get Celebi in this Pokeball, but since they did the goddamn movie, they skipped over it and it was just dropped from there.
Well, shit.
It was intended. Oh, here's some more deep thought. Celebi was intended to follow Ash around the Gold and Silver series as his Pokemon.
Oh.
That was the original plan. According to Masumitsu Hidaka, which I believe is one of the creators of Pokemon, of the whole entire series, he said that the GS ball stood for the Gold Silver Ball and was supposed to contain Celebi, and it was intended to follow Ash around the Gold and Silver series.
Well, we can't have that because Ash isn't allowed to keep his Pokemon.
Well, apparently not, because he gives it over to the other professor and we never hear about it again.
Bitch.
But yeah, Ash can't, or Professor Oak can't figure anything out with this Pokeball, so he tells Ash that he wants Ash to go and give the ball over to Professor Kurt over in the Johto region, and that he would like to give it over to him. And then we also find out that Gary is on his way over to the Johto region as well to go and study up on some Pokemon over there and to enter the Johto League. All right, bro, you can take it from here.
So, naturally, if that's what Gary's doing, That's what Ash has to do.
Yes.
So he's like, I'm going to go to the Johto League, and I'm going to capture some new Pokemon. I'm going to win some new badges. I'm going to win the Johto League. And he gets all hyped up, and he's like, we're going to go this way. And they have to turn him around because Johto is in the opposite direction. And this is also when we find out that Brock is going to rejoin the journey, and Tracy is going to stay back with Oak and play kiss ass.
As Professor Oak's assistant.
Right. Assisting and assisting doing what we don't really know.
He does the paperwork and he helps Professor Oak out around the office. That does get confirmed in the series, but he basically is Oak's number one hand man.
Well, shit. At least freaking Brock could cook.
Yeah. Well, so can Tracy. Tracy was doing some of the cooking in the series for the three because Ash and Misty don't know how to cook.
Well, I think they could figure it out if they wanted to, but
You're not
seem
wrong.
to be they don't seem to be too fussed. The who's that Pokemon is Dugong. Why is it Dugong?
We have no
Fuck it,
idea.
that's where the dart landed. Um, we see that apparently news travels fast because friggin' Mrs. Ketchum is already packing Ash's bag.
She wants him
Basically,
gone.
I was gonna say basically doing everything but shoving him out the door.
Professor Oak gives them an updated version of the Pokédex to get all the Pokemon that's over in the Johto region.
We're having a nice family dinner after Gary gives Team Rocket the completely cold shoulder.
Team
Team
Rocket breaks
Rocket
into the Ketchum residence and starts eating up some of their food, but Mr. Mime sees through the trickery and kicks them out. Ash finds out that it's Team Rocket because Team Rocket has snatched up Pikachu into their little fake camera. But it's at this point that Scyther and Marrow come to the aid, and Team Rocket goes blasting off again.
basically, I mean, and Ash is excited. He can't really sleep because they're heading out first thing in the morning.
Well, Pikachu, we leave for the Johto League first thing in the morning.
Pika.
It would have been nice to spend a few weeks here, but when you're a Pokemon trainer, you gotta keep moving.
Pika, Pika.
It's too bad. I'm really gonna miss Tracy not being with all of us when we head out west. I sure am glad Brock's coming with us.
Pikachu.
I think we can win that Johto League. How about you?
Pikachu.
Ash doesn't get any new. I think this is the one and only time that Ash is not going to get any new wear going over to the Johto League. Like, he still stays in the same clothes that we knew him in season 1 and 2, or well, 1 and 1.5. And after Johto is when his mother starts giving him some brand new clothes for him to wear.
Well, Oak increased her allowance.
You can spend this amount. But yeah, that was it, and our heroes start going and they're traveling over to the Johto region, everybody. So that was the 4-episode review that we have for this mega episode here for you. And I think it's time for us to go down one by one for these let's see, for these episodes, starting with Viva Las Lapras, Doug. I'm going to start this off with you. Scale from 1 to 5. What do you give that episode?
Like a 2.
A 2? Okay.
Because he lost a Pokemon that he didn't have to lose.
It didn't really progress in the story.
Didn't progress anything. Didn't have to happen, really, honestly.
For real. I'm going to go 2 as well. And the reason that I'm going to go 2 with that one, I'm going to start off the next one because I think if it's not the first, it's going to be a few, one of very few. But I'm going to give the next episode a 1. Ooh. The Underground Roundup. I did not like this episode at all. This episode served no purpose, and I felt like I was watching a rerun of a Pokemon episode that we had already reviewed in the past with the Magnemite, just shaken up just a little bit different. But I did not like this episode at all. What about you, Doug?
I mean, I liked the Clint Eastwood character. I mean, not as good as like Quack and Poker or Quack and or whatever.
Yeah.
I like the little interaction between the Voltorb and Togepi. Except when they made Togepi cry for no reason.
Oh, for real, bro.
Oh. I'm going to go 1.5.
Okay. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. These next 2 episodes, I'm in this. I feel like the only reason I'm going to give the rating that I'm going to give is because of the significance of it. But I'm going to have you start off the next episode, bro. So what would you give a tense sensation?
Well, I'm going to cheat.
Or situation. Sorry.
I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to put tense situation and a rivalry revival together.
Okay.
And I am going to give it a 4 as one unit.
Oh, okay. So a solid 4 for both episodes. I was actually going to one up it. I was going to give both of these a 5 because even though we didn't get an evolution, we progressed so much in the story. Ash got a new Pokédex. Ash did technically battle his rival again. The story progressed, and we found out that Professor Oak can't do everything when it comes to the GS ball, and Ash must travel with it again to give it over to Professor Kurt. So I'm going to give it a 5. I did like these 2 episodes.
Well,
you don't need to change your number. I'm not persuading you. I'm just that's how I feel for these 2.
I just feel like there was enough unanswered questions, and the battle was so brief. Like as far as we know as viewers, right?
Yes.
Currently, Gary only has 2 Pokemon.
Yeah. But actually, and I said we find out who his starter Pokemon was. We did not find out who his starter Pokemon was, but I did find out watching the Johto League Championships. And
yeah,
you won't believe who his first Pokemon was.
It's a Squirtle, right?
Yes, it is. It was a Squirtle, and he evolved his Squirtle all the way up to a Blastoise. And we also find out that all of his Pokemon are well trained because he actually contacts his grandfather at least once a week to change up his Pokemon so all of his Pokemon get trained properly.
So Gary played that Pokemon game really well.
Yes, he did. He trained all his Pokemon. which I'm playing. I'm playing a fan made game right now, and I don't know if I'm just gonna cheat, but currently right now I have a 6 party, and Pokemon Fire Ash, everybody, is a fan made game that takes you from Pallet Town all the way down to Unova, to where the series actually ended, and you actually get to play and fight in all the gyms, going all the way through Ash's series. So 50 plus badges, and I think I'm gonna just stick with my party and just make them all level 100 and just beast through the game. Is that cheating, or should I each region should I start over and just start with Pikachu in each region?
I mean, if you fall in love with a certain team, I mean, as long as you're training everybody equally.
You know what? That's not bad. I don't know. I'll let everybody know. I am writing down like my progressions in this game. I want to give my hats off to the person that made this game, because they made it very, very entertaining. I'm also playing Pokemon MMO again, everybody. I might give you out my screen name to that at some point. I'm not going to do it right now, because I might have to switch a little bit of things around in order to do that on the podcast. But I'm playing those 2 games. I'm also diving into a Pokemon Unbound, which is another fan made game, and Pokemon Reunion, which is another fan made game. So I'm all over the place with Pokemon and their fan made games. But Reunion is kind of on the back burn, because these other games that I'm playing right now are just so good, and they captivate me, and the leveling up in the game seems proper in the other ones, as opposed to Unbound, which I have to get used to, because that's its own little piece of meat. So, but anything you want to add, Doug, before I get to the Pokemon trading card game codes?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay, let's see. So, since we did 4 episodes today, I'm going to give out 4 codes, everybody. These codes can be used in your Pokemon trading card game, live, and I'm going to give away 2 Paldean Fates, and I'm going to give away 2 Paradox Rifts. So get your games ready, everybody, because it's first come, first serve for these. First code is MVLJNBTTMDKYY. Second code MVQJXBXX6Z9N6. Everybody. Third code 66CNP2J9H7ZNL. And last code 66VN4QCDYVG96. Those are your 4 codes. Use them in your Pokemon games, and I can go ahead and say that I gave away 4 codes this week in this mega mashup. Anything else that you would like to add, Doug?
No, just thanks everybody for sticking with us on this mega mashup.
Absolutely. And I would also like to sit here and remind all of you, if you're listening to this on the free feed, please subscribe to us if you haven't already on Spotify, because Spotify is the official sponsorship of our podcast. And if you have a little extra coin to throw our way, go ahead and subscribe to us on Patreon, where you will get all of our shows ad-free. We have some things that are coming up pretty soon on the show, which will give you some extra perks onto the Patreon, which I will announce along with Doug, hopefully later on this summer, everybody. And then you will get first dibs on the Pokemon movie as well, which will be our summer movie. And our summer movie this year is Pokemon Forever, everyone. So that being said, go ahead and say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you, thank you for listening, everyone. And we will be back next week with our first mashup of Pokemon Horizons. And I am excited to do it. Have a good night, and I will see you again next week.